poles and 3rd Street work and all that.
It kind of depends on how close you want the condition survey
Right, John?
To the works, yeah.
I said, you're only
Yep.
here because I told you to come.
No, I don't know. I wasn't going to come. I was going to just check it on the computer later.
Yeah. Are you with the same business?
What's that?
Are you with the same business?
But he has a
No,
camper over in our place.
I have a camper in the know.
All right, we're ready to get started. I'm Jay Owens, city engineer for the city of Red Wing. I'm here with Terry Ward, the MnDot project manager for the TH63 bridge project. And we're going to be doing some live updates here on a monthly basis to let the public know just what's happening with the bridge and field questions from the audience that come to City Hall here. Or if you can't make it to City Hall, tune in on Channel 6 and watch us the first Wednesday of every month, except we're changing for not next month. We're going to be on Thursday. So other than that, it's going to be the first Wednesday of each month. So we kind of learned that this was a good thing to do with the Main Street project, and we thought we'd continue these updates with the bridge project. So the last couple of years, we learned that this was helpful for people to get questions in, get questions answered, find out what the crews are doing, what's happening next, what they've already done, those kind of things, and just keep everyone informed of what's going on here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry, who's going to give a kind of what we've done so far with the bridge project, what's coming up this month, because it's going to start getting a little bit more busy on the Minnesota side of the river here, and then we'll probably go through a little bit of the schedule moving forward into the coming years. So just kind of an overview of all that. So I'll turn it over to Terry Ward, MnDOT project manager.
Well, thanks for having us today. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll start with Wisconsin. On the Wisconsin side, we put a bypass in place that you see over there with concrete barriers and tubes that gave us a little more room to work with. So if you drive over there today, you'll start to see some temporary sheeting along the highway. We have a pretty large fill that we have to build to the tune of roughly 20 feet tall that has to sit there for over a year for settlement purposes because of the poor soil conditions over there. So once we get that sheeting in, then we'll start to build this high 20-foot tall fill, which will take a lot of material, and then that'll sit there again for about a year as we wait for the soil to underneath to settle out. We've also started our bridge work, actually our substructure work. We built a fairly significant fill for the north abutment and let that set for 3 days. Next week, the contractor is scheduled to start driving piling on the north abutment. They think that'll take about 2 weeks on that north abutment for their pile driving operations. We also put in what we call a Coffer Dam at Pier 6. A Coffer Dam is a temporary box out of sheet pile that allows us to de-water to build the bridge foundations. And the other thing you see over in Wisconsin is our temporary causeway that we're building into the water to reach over. Soon we'll be over to the campground, and then that'll give us the access to the river. This job is a little unique in that the access to the river for the contractor really is on the Wisconsin side through this temporary causeway that we're building. If you look at the Red Wing proper side with the railroad tracks and the bluff and ADM, it's really kind of challenging from an access to the river perspective. So that's what you're seeing going on in Wisconsin. Later on this year, we might start to work on a box culvert over there, which is towards I'll call it the northerly end of the project, a fairly good sized box culvert that we have to replace. If I switch gears then on the Red Wing side, it's been rather quiet so far. There's been some utility work that you've seen, but not a whole lot on the project. There's a building that was removed starting last week, half of it at least, the Langer building. That wasn't actually the contractor. That was an environmental consultant removing some asbestos from that building, some contaminated material. We call it the Langer building, but I went there before the meeting here, and that building's about halfway gone because of the asbestos. So next week is when we start to shift the work into Red Wing into gear. So we'll talk about what our goals are for this year. Our goal is to build a new signalized intersection on Highway 61 this year. And part of the button hook so that we can actually put in a temporary bridge. We have to put in a temporary bridge next to the existing bridge over Highway 61 to handle traffic so that we can remove and rebuild that bridge over Highway 61. So this year we're going to start next week with building demolition or building removals. We'll move after our building demo work or building demolition work into some utility, sewer, and water work. And then we'll start a pretty good size fill and some retaining walls on what we call this button hook, or this curved alignment that comes up to a temporary bridge and crosses the Eisenhower Bridge. Next spring then, out of the gate, one of the first things we'll do is we'll put traffic on that new signalized intersection and put traffic on the temporary bridge. We do not want to put traffic on that temporary bridge over the wintertime, this first winter, so we're purposefully waiting for next spring to do that. There'll be a lot of activity going on to make that happen. Throughout the course of this summer and throughout the project, the Eisenhower Bridge will be kept open to traffic unless there's an emergency closure for some reason, which could happen irregardless of a construction, job here. So again, the Main River Bridge open to traffic throughout duration of the project. Between the hours of 8:30 and 3 p.m., no flagging operations or no impacts to traffic crossing the river bridge. So we're trying to be mindful of that important corridor. If I move into next year then, again, there could be some operations on the Wisconsin side with the box culvert. In Red Wing, we switch gears and we start what I'm going to call a slip ramp construction. And Jay can talk a little bit more about the sewer and water work. But next year, we close down the current ramp that comes into town, and all traffic takes the button hook. And that'll be for all next summer. The intersection of Highway 3rd Street or Highway 63 and Potter is open at all times except for a 4-week closure where we shut it down to do the sewer and water work. And then as we get into the following year in 2019, we're back over in Wisconsin because we've got that big tall surcharge done. We're building a new approach to the bridge over there with the goal of having the new bridge under traffic by September of 2019. Just a general overview. Jay, you want to add to that?
Yeah, that we do have some sewer and water this year. Like Terry said, the bulk of it will be next year when traffic is switched over to the button hook, and then we'll be into the work on 3rd Street and at the Potter Street intersection and the Bluff Street utilities as well. But this year we do have to get the force main out of the way, which is down along the gravel road next to the railroad tracks down below ADM. So that work is scheduled to start here next week probably. We're going to be moving that force main. That's basically all the sewage from the city of Red Wing goes through that force main to go to our wastewater treatment plant. We'll be moving that out of the way so the new bridge pier can be built. Pier number 1 is the Minnesota side. So we got to get that utility out of the way. And then we have some utility relocation around on 3rd Street and 4th Street area where the button hook is going to be. So that's some utility work that will be happening this year. The work that you've seen out there right now, when I say, the Minnesota side has not had a lot of the bridge contract work, but Excel has been in there and they've been busy moving gas mains. And I know that kind of just looks like more construction, and it is. It's just not the part of the bridge contractor's work. It's the private utilities moving their gas main. Excel Power has been in there taking lines down and moving their electric lines as well. So there's work happening, and that's for sure. It's just going to start gearing up to be more of the contract bridge work here in the coming weeks and this month. So to give you an update on that Excel gas main move, they do have that work complete, and they are moving into restoration. We're hoping to see the restoration crew in town the last couple days, Thursday and Friday this week, to repour concrete along Potter Street across from Anity's Closet and across from Red Wing Shoe Plant 1. We want to get those sidewalks back in order and the ped ramps repoured and get all that restored where that gas main work was done. So. And that's right by where the bridge office is. If you see those construction trailers over there on the corner of Potter and 3rd, that's the main offices for the next 4 years. Terry spends a lot of time there. I've been spending some time there as well. And that's where we have our project meetings with the contractor and the subcontractors and so forth. So Terry, I guess things have started out and it's going well, wouldn't you say, the work so far?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of submittals and documents and planning and stuff that has to take place for a project like this. So just as an example, I was reading the vibration monitoring plan this morning, and it's a pretty thick document just on how we're going to be good stewards of the environment in terms of Barn Bluff and the historic buildings, and in Wisconsin, the campground. So a lot of work, a lot of coordination, a lot of documents, a lot of planning. But we're really at a point where a lot of that work is done, and we're ready to kind of spread our wings a little bit and start getting some more construction activity going on.
Yeah. Well, maybe Terry, one thing that I know has got Facebook time and wasn't unexpected was the bald eagle. Maybe you want to give a little update on what we're doing to make sure that we're not impacting any eagles over there?
Yeah, the bald eagle is an interesting story. We look through project corridors and do environmental documents and do a lot of planning and studying, and for several years we didn't find any bald eagle nests within the footprint of our project. So we thought we we were good to go. But early this year we showed up to do some tree clearing activity, and our crews noticed an eagle nest. It's actually on the right-hand side if you're going into Wisconsin, just off the bridge on the right-hand side. You can't see it now because of all the leaves that are out there, but so we found an eagle nest, and we had to coordinate with Fish and Wildlife and the Department of Natural Resources, and they came up with some protocols where if we're within 660 feet of the eagle nest doing any work, we have to have a monitor there, a person actually monitoring the nest, which we're doing. And during the season of newborns being raised in the nest, which is pretty much now going to be over with here pretty soon, about mid-July. The reason they wanted us to monitor the nest is if the adults leave the nest for over an hour, it could be problematic for the young bald eagles. So if we had noise going on and the eagles left for over an hour, we had to shut down operations so that the eagles would feel comfortable coming back to the nest. That only happened once, the first day we were doing tree removals. Other than that, it's been good. But it's just part of us being mindful, again, of our environmental stewardship and the importance. It's not just, building a construction project. There's a lot of things out there that we have to fulfill our commitments as well, whether it's bald eagles or federally endangered northern long-eared bats or peregrine falcons or warty-back mussels in the river. Just an example of all the things that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, and the tree that the eagle nest was in is not scheduled for removal,
Correct.
but you just need to work around that, and that's where the monitor comes in to make sure that we're not impacting their nesting there. So,
Yep.
yeah. So I did want to say these meetings, we're planning these monthly. If it seems that we're getting into a point where we want to move those up and maybe do a little bit more often, these live, we'll kind of gauge it from there. You probably remember last couple years, we did weekly meetings for the Main Street project, but there seemed to be quite a bit of stuff going on, and if we're changing traffic almost on a weekly basis, so it was kind of that update was really needed. So we'll gauge this. If we think we need more meetings or more of these public live broadcasts, I'm sure I can get Terry over here to do that. So he's in town plenty. We can get him over here and give these updates. So with that, how about any questions that have come in either online or in the audience here? Sir, got a question?
On the Wisconsin side, that causeway you're building, is that going to extend out into the river? And is there going to be a causeway on the opposite side of the bridge too?
Yeah, the question was regarding the causeway in Wisconsin. Is it going to extend out into the river? Yes. The contractor actually, Zenith Tech, the contractor, actually submitted a concept to build what I'm going to call a temporary trestle from the shoreline out to the pier in the river, and it's like a temporary dock.
Oh,
so they can actually have cranes and equipment walking out there. They put a little bit of fill in, put a temporary dock all the way out to what we call Pier 2, that first pier out in the middle of the river. The other question about, is there going to be a similar causeway on the Minnesota side?
No, just on the other side of the bridge for when you dismantle the old bridge.
Yeah, so for downstream, there will be a causeway as well for dismantling. So it's set up to have an upstream causeway for building the new bridge and a downstream causeway for removal of the existing bridge.
Okay.
And then on the Minnesota side, there won't be a causeway, but they're going to put in some sheeting to put a docking facility over there. So they will extend a little bit out into the river on the Minnesota side with some sheeting and some fill. So they got a platform as they're bringing material in. They'll have a platform to set their crane and to work off, because there's not much room on the Minnesota side with that road there. They need a little area to work with.
It's tight there from the river, of course, to the tracks. It's a small work area, so they're going to build out a little bit and create some benching for them to work off of from the Minnesota side.
Thanks for your questions.
Any other questions out here? Anything come in that, no other questions?
Nothing on Facebook.
Nothing on Facebook, okay. Well, it might, that might change as work on this side gets a little bit, you know, we get a little bit more into the Minnesota side here, but we are also available any time to email us questions and you know, get a hold of Terry or myself. I think our name and phone numbers and contact information is spread out there, and the Chamber's doing a good job of keeping the information flowing on a weekly basis. Thank you, Patty, for your updates going out to all the Chamber members as well. So, oh, we have another question here.
On that dock system that you're taking out into the water, what kind of time frame is that going to be put in?
Yeah, the question was on the temporary trestle or the temporary docking system that is going to go out into the water on the Wisconsin side from land out to Pier 2. The contractor, first of all, to do that, they need approval from the Corps of Engineers, because that's a modification. We never showed that temporary trestle in our plans and specs. We showed a causeway from the roadway coming through the campground to the shoreline. That's what we have permitted. We anticipate the Corps of Engineers approval of that trestle in mid-July. It's going to take the contractor a little bit of time to get mobilized, but they could actually start installing that by the end of July into early August. And it'll be there for perhaps the bulk of this construction season, if not into next year as well, because they'll start in the bottom of the river, they'll start with a Coffer Dam installation, start pouring their foundation, and then they'll build up out of the river that pier until they get up to their superstructure. So that trestle will be there likely over a year, if not longer, as they
Are
do
you
the
going to have a
work.
trestle on the other side of the bridge too, the downstream side?
They're not planning a trestle that we've seen on the downstream side for removal. That we haven't seen that yet. They could, but they haven't submitted that concept yet. That could be down the road in terms of their planning process.
Brings up a good, you're talking about those coffer dams that are needed, built in the river there to allow for the construction of those two main piers, Pier 1 and Pier 2. Terry had some good video of the work on the Winona Bridge, and maybe as things go, we can get some of that on our live broadcast here, show what's going on out there. These guys working basically at the floor of the river, putting in the foundations for these. It's kind of neat to. Terry said the first time you go down in one of those, it feels a little bit weird. You're in a little box, and you know the river water's 20 feet above you right there. But so we'll maybe get some of that footage as well. It'd be kind of neat to show. Okay, I think answered a few questions, and we'll be going at it again on August. I think it's the first Thursday. Is that August 3rd, or what's the date on that? Yes, August 3rd is our next broadcast, and come on down and sit in the audience, bring some questions, and we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you for your time.